Okay, James, you go ahead and get us. We got about 5 minutes. And let's see if we get Jim in here. Let me just turn off some of these. And here, back in Japan. All right. We just need to wait for Jim to get in. But I guess we could talk about maybe the sale going on.
Oh, there he is.
Is he in here already? There he is. Let me add him up there.
Hey, you guys.
Hey,
Hey,
How's it
going?
going today?
going good.
Busy, busy day today.
Always
Busy?
busy day.
I'm thinking exactly that for you guys. You probably don't have a single day where you can say, it's been slow. Really haven't really done anything much today. I'm sure that you've maybe heard people say stuff like that, and you're thinking that's all in that's in fictional books. It
Yeah.
doesn't happen in real life.
No, we have our slow days. It's just we're busy on our slow days too.
It's true,
So
we
some
are.
days we're busier than busy.
Love it.
So it's either busy or too busy, and so it's yeah. So it's but yeah, no, it's good. All's good. We just some some of the departments we've increased manpower, um, added some new employees. I think we got, I don't know, I'd have to check with Rupal, but I think she said we're hiring like 3 employees next week or something like that.
Uh,
Wow.
We have 3 new employees starting next week, I believe.
Wow.
I know they were doing a bunch of interviewing, and
mhm.
uh, someone started this week. So yeah, so it's lots of new faces.
Well,
Uh,
I know where to go. I need to get a job. I need to make some money. So I know to go to Finerworks now.
yeah, I need to make some money too. If we keep hiring people, they won't. No one's going to pay me anything. There won't be any money left. Um, no, no. So we've been very busy. Today we got a chance to look at some new equipment. I'm going to actually see it in person in Las Vegas the week after next for a trade show. But we had a virtual demo on some digital cutting equipment to help basically improve production, uh, output, both quality as well as speed. By We've gotten to the point where a lot of the things we do, we can't do it manually anymore. We actually need machinery to start doing some of these things, from everything from uh, box manufacturing to cutting out paper prints, fine art paper prints of people's photos and artwork. So, um, so we're looking at bringing that kind of equipment in, just because it's just we some of the processes we've had for years we've just fully outgrown.
Hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
And we have a canvas sale going on right now, 33% off.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
that
Yes,
ends tomorrow,
that ends actually tonight at midnight.
tonight at midnight.
So get your orders in now. It's what's the promo? It's
The
use promo
code
code.
is major canvas.
Yeah, major canvas, because it's a major canvas sale. So so
33.
yeah, so the canvas department I think's been pretty busy as well through that sale. I haven't seen the numbers yet, but I do know um, every time we do a canvas sale, it gets a lot of yeah, it's gets a lot of people taking advantage of it. So,
Yeah.
um,
Good.
um, but
Forget is in by midnight Central.
yeah, yeah. So it's good, especially with the newer technology we introduced for matte canvas, and uh, it's now including matte canvas, uh, the artisan canvas, the Silverado. The only thing it's not including yet is the gloss, but resin ink technology that's now being used for those the metallic artisan and then the matte. Um, the resin ink technology is just amazing.
Hmm.
It lays out. I mean, just the resolution is just incredibly sharp. The
Really?
inks are don't don't smudge or scratch. No, smudge proof, scratch proof, no gloss differential. So one of the things you you could see with certain types of inks is you look at a print under a certain angle, the the light reflects off the dark areas at a different level than it does brighter
Yeah.
areas. So
Yeah.
it eliminates all that.
Yeah, this is going to be, I think a lot of people are going to really like that. And then just again, how long those prints are going to last, I think is going to be amazing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Those prints are going to be.
I guess it's a great thing. In my family, we live into our hundreds. I'll let you know how those are.
Yeah, yeah. Or you'll have to let my descendants know. Right?
Yeah. Avery and them know, like Avery and all of them know, hey, 50 years later, those things are
That's
still
right. Let Cabri know all about it.
good.
Yeah.
Um, so do you want to go ahead and get started, Jim? And I'll go ahead and let me pull this blah blah so I can let you share and everything. Let me put us onto this. That should let you present. And if you go into the comments here, we have the link to Jim's presentation today, and we're going to be going on sales for people who don't like to sell. We were talking about this on first Tuesday, kind of what we were segueing into is for people to raise their prices. That was our topic on Tuesday, and we said how this is going to just continue to be a tool for people as we get into fourth quarter, and it's the highest volume of sales time of year for Christmas. So hopefully you can help a lot of people, not only photographers, but just artists, because sometimes that sale thing is like deer in headlights to a lot of people. So getting talking about their prices and stuff like that and gaining that confidence. Um, I'm hoping. I mean, you are like the sales master.
Huh.
Well, yeah, you've gotten really great packages and everything. So, and have been helping people for a number of years. So, we look forward to your presentation today.
Well, I certainly appreciate that. And uh, over the years, I may have gotten, as you said, good at, I'll just say good, not master, at sales. But man, I started off just like everybody else did. It was difficult. I would talk to other photographers and say, well, what do you say in this instance? Or what do you do? Or how do you price this? Or what do you say when someone says this to you? There's all these different scenarios. And if you have people to talk to, you ask. But man, a lot of times the answers you get don't help very much. And a lot of times they're like, oh gosh, I don't know. And they don't have the right words to share. And so, hi, Gray. That's my husky. And so, over a long period of time, I've been a full time photographer since 1991. So I've had a few years to learn a few things and appear to be good from some people. But man, there's so many cool things that you learn over time that can be learned the long way just by trial and error, or can be learned the short way by doing things like this, watching these live stream events, watching YouTube videos, and actually talking to people, or working as an intern or apprentice with someone who has many years of experience that they can share with you. So, oh man, there's so many cool things that we can do. Uh, I'm sure that you guys have gotten at least this much better in the things that you do, right?
Yeah, everybody gets a little better every year. That's why they got to increase their prices.
That is true. That is very true. We're going to be talking about a couple of things like that. Like, um, uh, you can't compete based on price. There's always someone who'll do it less than you. So we'll spend a moment talking about that here in just a moment. So let's get into this. Got to press the right button. There we go. So, yeah, I am more geared in towards the photographers, but in my opinion, we're in the category of creatives. All of us artists are in the category of creatives. And yes, occasionally I come across someone who doesn't believe that a photographer is an artist. Um, but that just means they don't know a whole lot about this particular medium, about how much effort and time does go into it, about how much you grow over time based on the effort you put into it. And I commented just a few days ago on Facebook that I was judging an event that wasn't just photography. In fact, it had very little photography. It had a lot of mediums. It had a lot of painters. That was probably the most. It had glass artists. It had a handful of sculptors, mostly in wood. It had lots of other things, but there were only a handful of photographers. And when we came down to the end, each one of us got together and we shared our top 10 that we wanted to narrow down to the overall winners from the three of us. The other two were painters. And on my list of top 10 were 3 photographs. And they kind of both looked at me like, really? They didn't actually say anything right at first. They just kind of looked at me like, is he serious? And then they realized, yeah, I'm serious. And so they kind of looked at each other and snickered. And then one of them said, you know, art is more than just, pressing a button, clicking to get an image. It's about all the effort and all the work that goes into it, the experience, the time, the heart that goes into it. And I guess they just didn't see what that is on the photography side. But bottom line, and I don't want to go into all those things, all those thoughts. There's more that I could say. I'm going to leave it alone. But we're all in the category of creative. And because we're in that category of creative, we actually care what other people think about our work, about us. We care about all these different variables. And this is a good thing, but it can also be a negative thing because we care more than just what they feel about our work. We care about what they feel about us. We actually care about what they feel about our price too. So when we show an image, when we share an image that we've created with someone, if they like it, it feels good. We feel it inside of us. Conversely, when they don't like it, we feel that too. But we are creating based on what motivates us, what drives us, what we feel, what story we're trying to convey. Yes, we are trying to convey it to a viewer, but not every person is the right person we're trying to convey the story to. So if you've correctly conveyed what it is you're trying to share, then it doesn't matter that some people aren't in tune with it. That's fine. That's great. There's very few images that would fit the category of everybody likes. In fact, I'm not sure there's any. We are emotionally connected to the things we create. That's just how we creatives are built. The same goes for our price list and any form of us selling our work. It's tough unless you have a system for selling, a system for making things a little bit smoother. Unless you have that system, a real plan in place, things can be difficult. But I want you to understand, if you don't already, selling isn't bad. Yes, I know there's stereotypes of the the pushy salesperson, the pushy car salesperson, who seems a little slick, or maybe you've got another word for it. But selling isn't those extreme examples. Selling is simple. Selling's a good thing. We don't manipulate. we learn about our prospect and we educate them in what we do, in my opinion, people don't invest in artwork, for me, photography, for logical reasons. But I think any type of artwork, I don't think we invest in it for logical reasons, for the most part. Are there exceptions? Of course there are. Someone hiring a photographer to photograph their products so that they can sell their products better. Of course, there's logical reasons. But for the most part, people do not invest in art for logical reasons. They don't invest for logical reasons. They invest in art for emotional reasons. So therefore, what is it that we're selling? It's the emotion. Photographers, it's not time that you're selling. Why are you selling your time? Why are you doing that? That's not what it is people are buying from you. Are there exceptions? Sure. Someone hires a photographer to photograph an event. Sure, it's based on time. Okay, sure. There's exceptions. But what I'm talking about more is on that art side. People aren't buying the time, they're buying the end result, the emotional connection that they have with that end result. As a photographer, you're a marketer and seller of photographic services. From a prospect's point of view, let's start where the prospect's mindset is. They feel the need to hire a photographer. And while there are lots of reasons why they may feel that way, the bottom line is that they are looking for a photographer. And here's some of those things that are on their mind. Curiosity and comparison. They're researching different photographers in the area. Style and quality. They're looking at portfolios and they're reading online reviews to get an idea of style and quality. They're narrowing down the options. They think about what they need. Posed images, candids, what location it needs to be at, a wall portrait, where on the wall it's going to go, an album, what clothing they're going to wear, and several other things, and budget. They are thinking about how much they have to invest into this. More on that in just a little bit. Now, from the photographer's point of view, many people assume that all photographers are the same. They think that anyone with a camera can make a decent photograph. But as anyone who has heard the stories or hired a bad photographer knows themselves, that is simply not the case. A good portrait photographer, or you know what, as a good portrait photographer, we believe that good photographers have knowledge, skill, and experience. They understand camera basics, lighting, composition. They know how to make their subjects feel comfortable and relaxed. They have the right equipment to do the job, and they know how to use that equipment well beyond a surface level understanding. And they understand why client education is so important. Not only conveying how the prospect will benefit from working with you, but also knowing how to get them excited about the idea of having beautiful photographs made that they will cherish for their lifetime. For those who are dealing directly with their clients, words tell, stories sell. So I want to convey a story with you. And the reason is because we all have a surface level understanding and preconceived ideas about huge numbers of subjects. But we generally don't know below the surface level because we haven't really been serious about taking time to learn what's below the surface. So I'm going to give you an example of that. Maybe I shouldn't have prefaced it. Maybe I should have just told the story. But this story is one that was conveyed to me. I didn't experience it. I was at an event, and or maybe it was a class that I took, and it was the teacher that shared it. But this is their story. So the scene is an airplane. They're flying from point A to point B, doesn't matter where. And there is two kids who are acting crazy. I mean, they're loud. They're bugging the people around them, both in front of them and behind. They're kicking the seat. They're making noises. They have run up and down the aisles a handful of times. They've made multiple trips to the restroom. They are just little kids who are causing a ruckus. Well, anytime that happens, many of the rest of us are a little annoyed by that, and we're wondering why the parent isn't doing their job and doing something about it. In fact, the other people on the plane are looking at the dad, because it's just the dad, looking at the dad, wondering what the heck is going on, what's he doing? Because he's just sitting there. He looks like he's off in his own little world. And so someone with enough moxie goes up to him and says, dude, take care of your kids. They're bothering everybody around you. And all of a sudden, he seems like he's just woken up. Not as in sleeping, but as in he was definitely off into his own little world. And he says, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't even notice. We're heading home from my mother's funeral. And I had that on my mind. All of a sudden, everyone around understood and felt for him. And they were no longer mad at him for not doing his job as a dad. They understood. And they also went one step further. They helped him. They played with the kids. Just because you see something and you believe it strongly does not in any way make it true. It makes it true for you temporarily, but it doesn't make it true beyond you. And that is one great example of there's a lot more than what you see at the surface. The goal in telling you that story is to paint a picture. I'm not saying you're going to use that story to help sell your artwork. I'm just using that as an example of if you tell a good story, you intrigue the people who are watching you or listening to you to pay attention, which is hopefully what I caused you to do. Let's talk about something specific, something you could use. Let's talk about words you can use on the phone. Your tone of voice and your enthusiasm obviously are incredibly important. So talk slowly. Talk with kindness and enthusiasm. Here's how I recommend that you answer the phone. Now you do it in whatever way is appropriate. You may have a style. You may have a brand that everything is very specific. But in general, here's how I would recommend you answering the phone. As an example, the phone rings. You pick up the phone and you say, good morning, Landers Photography. This is Jim. Now, notice that I ended there. I didn't go on to say, how may I help you? That part's a given. I want them to know my name and remember my name. And they remember best what you said last. So therefore, I recommend that you say your name as the last thing because they're more likely to remember it. So that's how I begin a phone call. Let's say that you are in person. Again, you know this. First impressions, they're huge. So it's important to put some thought into this when meeting someone new. Even if it's not someone you've known before, put some thought into it. But especially when meeting someone new, because first impressions make a big difference. They are huge. Here's a few considerations that can help make a great impression. Now, these are things that I do, but whatever's appropriate for you. First, dress appropriately. Now, what the heck does that mean? This is not specific. I've not said, dress in your Sunday best, or, put on a suit and tie, or put on a dress. I don't know what's appropriate for what it is that you're doing. So I don't want it to be specific. I just want you to think about what's appropriate for what you're trying to accomplish. So this isn't specific because many factors affect the decisions that you make related to your clothing. You need to be true to your brand if it includes how you dress. It doesn't always. I have come across one photographer who's always in a tux. I think that's overkill. But hey, it's part of his brand. More power to him. But consider this. The way you dress shows that you respect the other person and you're taking this meeting seriously. Let me give you an example. This wasn't of a first impression. Well, I guess it was my first impression. I was once a guest at a wedding where the photographer showed up in a white t-shirt and jeans. Now, photographers dress whatever's appropriate. They dress comfortably. I mean, they're going to be on their feet for 8 hours, so yeah, they need to wear comfortable shoes, or at least bring them with them so they can change into them later. But really, a t-shirt and jeans for a wedding? In many instances, not all, but in many instances, this would be considered disrespectful to the importance of the event. So dress appropriately. Number 2, look them in the eyes. Making eye contact shows you're interested in what the other person has to say and that you are listening carefully to what it is they're saying. Number 3, lead with your name and extend your hand to shake theirs. This is a simple way to show confidence and to make the other person feel comfortable. Number 4, make your prospect feel welcome. Take a moment to chat before getting down to business to help build rapport and show that you're looking forward to working together. Now, let's say that you have a studio and they're coming to your studio. Keep it simple and upbeat, like, "Hi, I'm Jim. Welcome to my studio." Something real simple. And then show them around briefly, not a tour of the place, but briefly by leading them to the place you want them to sit so that they know what's going on. And you may say, "Have a seat here while I get us something to drink. Would you prefer bottled water, a Coke, maybe some coffee?" And I ask it that way instead of saying, "Would you like something to drink?" Because I don't want a simple yes or a simple no. I actually want to go get them something. I want to start things off with a positive, with a yes. And so I say, "I'm going to get bottled water, a Coke, coffee. What would you like?" So generally speaking, by the way, when I just said, "Can I get you something?" almost always they said no. When I changed it to this, almost always they asked for water or coffee usually. So it depends on time of day. So make sure to give them a moment to relax in whatever place you're going to be meeting at. Make sure to give them a moment to relax, to get comfortable with this new environment, and before moving on to whatever business you have at hand. All right, I have an action step for you. Write this down. I want you to identify 10 things that set you apart from your competitors. Now, again, this is for those who actually talk with their clients. Not every creative actually does talk with their client. This is for those who do. Identify the things that set you apart. This may be a good exercise even for those who don't deal directly with people. Hadn't thought about it in that way before. All right, so your assignment. List 10 things that are unique about you and your art. By the way, I've assigned this for, a long time. I think the first time I gave someone this assignment was probably 2008. Could have been 2005, somewhere in that range. And early on, one of the first people that had this assignment came back to me afterwards and said, "Jim, that was the most excruciating homework assignment I've ever had." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He said, "I came up with 2 or 3 or 4 real quick, no problem. And then after that, I couldn't think of anything else. I mean, I got to maybe 3 or maybe 4 or 5, but then I couldn't come up with anything else. I couldn't think. I thought at first this was an easy assignment. And I found out I didn't really know what the difference was between me and the next person. Have you ever tried to do that, Melissa?
Yeah. And people do that on interviews, when you go into an interview, you're selling yourself. So you'll get that sometimes there. I think if anybody wants to, like in the comments, if you want to put in a few things that you feel sets you apart, those would be interesting to read. So if y'all want to, just get into that comments section, either on YouTube or Facebook, wherever you're watching, and let us know some of the unique qualities about the service you provide, or your art, or your photography.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, guys, if you're following along with this, if you're resonating with anything that I'm saying, do me a favor right now in the comments, write yes. Just that simple word, yes. Tell me that that I'm hearing this. It's making sense. I understand where you're going just by entering the simple word yes. By the way, if you're watching this live, do me a favor, enter in hashtag live. If you're later watching this, enter in hashtag replay. That way we can tell the difference between those who are watching live and those who are watching the replay. And we like it either way, but it's good to know how people are watching. All right. I want to talk about the sales process. Now, I'm going to talk about 4 different parts of the sales process. There's actually a lot more, and I can go into a whole lot more detail, but for purposes of this presentation, I want to go over 4 different parts. The first really section, the first area that you're moving into when you are doing a sales presentation, and I am more thinking about the one-on-one, but this applies to one-on-one with many, a group. Number 1 is rapport building. That's number 1, rapport building. Now, I think that all of us on the surface have a good understanding of what that means. How good we are at it, maybe we've got some leeway there, but I think we have an idea, a solid idea of what this means. It means we need to be a good listener. We need to allow them to talk, and we listen with the intent to understand whatever it is that they are sharing. Maybe a couple of things I could add to this is, do not assume anything. Don't make assumptions in what they think and what they do and what they believe in. Whatever it is that the subject at hand, don't assume when you have the ability to ask. Assuming is what a human does when we have gaps to fill. Well, you don't have a gap to fill there. They are there to fill the gap for you. So allow them to fill the gap by asking the question. You've had conversations with people who assumed things about you. Sometimes they were right, but when they weren't, it might have bothered you. Well, we don't want to introduce things into a conversation that have the potential to bother them. So don't assume anything. Ask questions. So what if it's a dumb question? If you don't know, ask. By the way, if you've already forgotten their name, be a big enough person to ask instead of trying to figure it out later, or just not using their name through the rest of the conversation. We all forget stuff like that. Well, unless you have a photographic memory. I knew a guy that had a photographic memory. Man, I've known 2 or 3, not very many. Thoroughly impressed with that kind of thing. I don't have that. You probably don't have that, because very few do. So don't assume anything. Ask questions. Be friendly. This is not an interrogation. It's just a fact or an understanding finding mission. You just want to know about them. And I want you to ask this important question. What is most important to you about whatever it is that you're there to talk about? So let's say you're a family portrait photographer. What's most important to you about your family? Don't add in the word portrait. What's most important to you about your family portrait? Guys, the portrait side is your job. You will be asking questions about that later in the process, but you don't start there. Your first goal is to find out what is important to them. Don't you care Of course you do. So ask, what's most important to you about your family? Let's say it's a high school senior. What's most important to you about your senior year? How about if it's a photograph of a couple? Maybe they're going to get married. So, what's most important to you about your relationship? This is the most, in my opinion, important question of understanding what someone is all about. They've told you why they're there, so ask them what's so important about that. Number 2. Number 1 was rapport building. Number 2, qualify. Now, not everyone who breathes is the ideal client for you. Not everyone with enough money in their pockets is the right client for you. Yes, you would prefer that they had enough money in their pockets. Of course you would. But those aren't differentiators that you're looking for as much as the target market that brings you the most joy. So we've got to qualify them to find out if they fit that category. Share your unique factors, those that are appropriate for this prospect. You're not going to sit there and read off all 10 that you just came up with of your unique factors. You don't read them. You just share what's important to them. And you just found out what was important to them because of the rapport building, the quality rapport building that you did. You're qualifying them to make sure that they're the right target market for you. Now, let's bring that down to more simpler terms. An analogy of a tool store. There are a lot of tools at the tool store, but when you go in, you're not looking for the best tool in the tool store. You're looking for the tools that help you do whatever job it is you're trying to accomplish. As an artist, you are one of the tools. And you're the right tool for only the right people, not for everyone. If someone goes in looking for a weed eater and you're a hammer, it doesn't bother you that they go get a weed eater and don't pick you, because it's not the same thing. Yeah, I'm personifying tools. I'm a creative. Give me some leeway. But we also have to do a good job of defining who it is or what it is that we are. Because if you are that weed eater and you describe yourself poorly, I'll give you an example. Let's say you describe yourself as, you hold me and I spin so fast that I cut things really quickly. All right, so if that's your description of yourself, you're right. That is a description of a weed eater, but it's a really bad one because a ceiling fan could do that, but it's not meant to cut. Well, what is meant to cut? How about a circular saw? It turns real fast, you hold it, and it cuts things real quickly. But it is not a weed eater. Make sure when you define who it is, what it is that you are, what it is that you do, that you define yourself so clearly that you differentiate yourself from the competitors. That was qualifying. Number 3, discover or find their dominant buying motive. There are many reasons why someone wants to hire an artist, and for me, a photographer. So let's spend a moment with 2 of those reasons. These are kind of reasons that kind of go over everything, but there's a ton of reasons why someone would want to buy or spend or invest money into a photographer. So let's go over 2 of them: price and quality. So price. Now, I know you may feel that that's a huge one. Guys, if you have... No, let's make a statement. You have blinders on if you feel that price is always someone's dominant buying motive. Besides, we can't compete on price. I mentioned this really early on in this presentation. We cannot compete on price because there's always another creative out there who will do it less than you. I was on Facebook earlier. I saw a post where someone was asking for a senior portrait photographer. They weren't asking for it for free, but guess what someone did on their post? They responded with, I need to add seniors. In other words, they've never photographed a senior before in their life. I need to add seniors to my portfolio. I'll do it for free. Now, I understand why that individual wants photographs for their portfolio, that photographer. I understand why they want photographs for the portfolio, because people buy what they see. So they want to add that to it so that they can start selling senior portraits. I get it. But you are also, at the same time, taking someone else's income away from them. How rude and insensitive. You were out for yourself when you offered that for free. Now, if you reach out and you are seeking someone, if it's your effort and you were seeking someone to be a model for you so you could add something, I don't have a problem with it in that instance, not even slightly. That's just my opinion. You don't have to share it. Now, you may say, I know that price is a dominant buying motive because they almost always ask about price. Okay. Anytime where you don't know a whole lot about a certain subject, you at least know one question: how much? So therefore, that doesn't prove that it's a dominant buying motive either. Unless you have a distinct indicator that price is their main concern, don't assume that it is. Coming back to the assume that I mentioned before. Don't assume anything. Ask. In fact, there's been times when I have asked, is a low price the thing that's going to cause you to choose one photographer, one artist over another? I want to know for sure that that's the reason. Because for some, it may be that they're just simply focusing on value. They want the best bang for the buck. That doesn't mean that they don't have, that they want the lowest price. It means they want the best value. But they're going to have to ask about price in order to get to that conclusion. So do not assume that lowest price is what people want. Besides, it's not beneficial to you or them to assume that. All right, two things. The second is quality. This means different things to different people, of course. So it could be difficult to quantify if this is their dominant buying motive, or to narrow down specifically. So you're going to have to ask. For some, it may mean durability, that it's going to last for a long time, or it's going to last in a specific environment. For instance, when someone is working with finer works, they may choose a specific medium and a specific ink, like the resin inks. They may choose something very specific for its long-term durability. But that may not be their goal. We've got to narrow it down. That would be our goal as the creative who wants to get something printed. But we need to find out what theirs is. So for them, it may mean durability, but it may mean features. It may mean style. There is no one size fits all when it comes to understanding prospects and clients' motivations. But by asking questions, by listening to those answers, considering all of the relevant variables, you'll get a good sense of what matters most to them. And make sure to ask questions that cause you to know where they are in the decision-making process. Something like, after you've shared something, how do you feel about that? Or, does that sound good? That way we know where they're at. Now, a couple other thoughts about that. Melissa, did you have anything you wanted to add to the price or quantity? A lot of people have opinions on that one.
Well, I was thinking, doing all these photo essay meetings with you when you had Saunders on, and we were talking about his portrait package pricing there, and he had talked about how some of these are, what was it, almost like a seven-figure package to get this, artistic portrait done. There's an experience he provides with it, but there's again quality, an artistry. I think that was there. That I mean, like I said, he has clients because you see the pictures out there, and I'm starting to hear people saying that they got one of the portraits done by him. So there's almost now an elite quality. So when people are probably like, I just want photographers to know that, out there is somebody making that kind of money off of one portrait session. Um, and like I said, I think he's got to do maybe how many sales in a year to really come, not only cover his overhead, but I mean, he's covering, a nice income as well from that. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
a
Makes it
good
where he can
price.
focus on what he loves because he doesn't
Mhm.
have to spend a whole lot of time doing a whole lot of other things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's making
So
him sought after. So
it does. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, good points. Yeah, very good. All right. So I mentioned to during the process. So we've gone over three of these four. Uh, the first was price. The first was rapport building. The sales process. The first part of it is rapport building. The second part is qualifying, making sure that they're the right uh, client for you. The third is defining or discovering their dominant buying motive. And along this process, we need to find out where they are in the process because some are just curious and they're not interested in buying anything. They're just curious. Some are interested in buying something. We have to know the difference. And the only way to know the difference is by asking. It doesn't make those who aren't going to buy today someone who we don't want to talk to. It changes how we communicate with them by knowing all of the important variables to them. So we're going to ask questions after we've shared something with them to find that out. Things like, how do you feel about that? Or, does that sound good? So for portrait work, let's say, and I'm going to talk about wedding work here too. For portrait work, once you know that you want to work with someone, so in other words, you've qualified them, you believe that they are the right target market for you. So once you know that you want to work with the prospect, make sure to volunteer your prices. I mean, they probably ask that straight from the beginning because they don't know a whole lot of questions to ask. But make sure you volunteer your prices and try to do this before they ask. As soon as you get enough answers to your questions to give them a ballpark figure, I want you to give them how much you feel that it's going to cost them. Now, I use some specific words, and you can use my words if you want to, or you can tweak them to make them your own, and I'll go over them slowly so that you can write them down. By the way, the reason why I do this, it's communication. It's making sure that we're on the same page. They need to know the answer to the question anyway. I don't like to be shocked myself, so I don't want them to be shocked with the price. I also believe that it shows confidence, that I'm confident in what I do. I think it shows experience, that I've done this before, and I think it also says or implies I'm worth it. So here's what I say. At the point in time when I feel like I've gotten enough information to be able to give them a ballpark figure of how much this is going to cost them. Before we go any further, can I give you an indication? can I give you an indication? And I'm going to say this all together after I'm done. I'm just saying it slowly so you can write it down. Before we go any further, can I give you an indication of how much you can plan on investing? Of how much you can plan on investing. By the way, I do consider portrait photography, which is what I do, I consider it an investment because it's not something that I get and it's over. Like a meal. I don't consider going to a nice restaurant to be an investment. I consider that to be an expense. Things that I get to keep and they don't lose value. I have the same emotional value for it, and maybe even it grows over time. I have to put in the investment category. So art, I put it in the investment category. Now, it may not be something that, some artist's work is not going to appreciate over time. Okay, but that's not the point, because the person who is receiving it is emotionally connected to it. So therefore, it's an investment for them. They get to keep on enjoying it. I don't get to keep on enjoying that fine dining experience. I get it once. Before we go any further, can I give you an indication of how much you can plan on investing? And then be silent and wait for their response. By the way, their response is always yes. They want to know how much it's going to cost. And I want to ask questions to which the response is yes. So that's one other reason why I asked the question that way. Before we go any further, can I give you an indication of how much you can plan on investing? I'm silent while they say whatever it is they're going to say, and generally it's just a yes. Most people in your situation, and again, I'm assuming you're writing this down, so I'm going to repeat it so you have an opportunity to write it down. Most people in your situation can plan on investing between, and you give a ballpark figure, a range. So maybe it's 800 and 2,600. Most people in your situation can plan on investing between 800 and 1,600 and get a larger one for themselves and some smaller ones to give as gifts. Does that fit within your budget? Now let's unpack that. Most people in your situation. Now, this conveys that you've heard what it is they say and you have worked with others who are looking for something similar. So most people in your situation can plan on investing. You know why I use the word invest. Between 800 and 2,600. Now, this number is just a number I'm throwing out. You choose a number that makes sense based on what it is that they have asked for. So if you know it's a wall portrait and you know what size approximately it's going to be, and on your price list says $8,000, then it would be totally inappropriate to say 800 to 2,600. So you say an amount that actually is real. You may not know, as a photographer, you don't know what print size they're going to buy beforehand, but you should at least get some indication of what it is and how many it is. Why would you purposefully go into this situation blindly? That's what most photographers do, but they're doing it wrong, in my humble opinion. I want to know what the end result is supposed to be. That way I can create for what it is that they want. Most photographers, let's give a driving analogy. Most photographers are going on a road trip and not defining where they're going. What sense does that make? How do you know if you've got enough gas? How do you know if you have enough time? How do you know if you have enough money? No one does that. When you plan a road trip, you've defined where the road trip goes to. So therefore, photographers, why aren't you doing that? What's the end result supposed to be? Give them a ballpark figure based on that. So most people Most people in your situation can plan on investing between, and I'm throwing out these numbers, you use the appropriate numbers for you, 800 and 2600, and get a larger one for themselves. Now, why would I say that? Because I specialize in emotional family portraiture as home decor. So I know they're getting a larger one for themselves because they're getting a wall portrait to go on their wall because they love their family and they want to experience that feeling that they get of seeing them looking beautiful and wonderful on their wall every day. Most people invest between 800 and 2600 and get a larger one for themselves and some smaller ones as gifts because they do give gifts. It's not like grandma doesn't want an 8x10 of that family portrait. So I'm aware they do that. Also, a lot of moms and dads get one for their office. Maybe that's at home, maybe that's not at home, but they want one for the office too, at least a 5x7. So maybe there's a godparent involved. Maybe there's some aunt and uncles that are close. So there are some gift prints also. Generally, gift prints are 8x10 and 5x7. And I may have gone over that slightly with them already. I may not have been specific with it, but I will be specific with it. Because when I'm at the photography session, when I create something that was specifically for grandma, I know that it was specifically for grandma because we had the conversation about what grandma would want. Because I'm defining my destination. I want to know what the end result is supposed to be so that I can create for the end result. And then I end it with, does that fit within your budget? Because if my range, that $800 to $2,600 range, has an extra zero compared to what they were expecting, I want to get this out of the way now, before it becomes a problem. I want them to be aware so that they can make an educated decision. Now, I'll tell you what most people say, but before I do that, make sure that you give them an opportunity to respond. Be silent. So let's do that second section. Most people in your situation can plan on investing between 800 and 2600 and get a larger one for themselves and some smaller ones as gifts. Does that fit within your budget? Be silent. Let them respond. Now I'll give you a response that I hear a lot. Yeah, as long as it's within the lower part of that, I'm good. That's what a lot of people say. That's what a lot of people say. By the way, if someone gives me a number, this is my budget. If someone's, and that doesn't happen all that often, but if they say my budget is $1,000, for some reason, every time someone tells me what their budget is, they, not because I push it, because I don't, they wind up investing double, on average, what they said their budget was. Don't know why that works that way. No idea why it works that way. But nearly every single time, if someone says, I have a budget, let's say they say $800, they almost always invest $1,600. It's almost always double what they say it is. Again, not everybody shares that kind of thing. So again, once you've said this, you are silent and you listen for the answer. You don't lead them on. You don't help them answer. You allow them to respond. Now, let's say it's a wedding photography. You're a wedding photographer. Let's say that you, the same thing, we need to go over the prices. We need to find out who they are. We need to find out what's important to them, what's most important about your wedding, what's most important about your relationship. Find out who they are. How did you meet? All those normal questions. Learn who they are. And then when you're sharing your prices, now you may have a price list with 3 packages on it or 5 packages on it. By the way, if you've got 10 packages on your price list, stop. That's too many. Your goal is to make their life easier. But if you give them a million choices to choose from, how's that easier? It's not. Reduce the number of choices to the things that you know are best. Not, oh, well, somebody might want it. Come on, guys. Who's the artist here? Who's the expert? You make the decisions on what's best, and you present to them only what fits that description. And if they don't like it, great. You don't have to invest any more time, and they don't have to invest any more time with you. That's fantastic, because not everyone who breathes is your target market. So you go over your packages for a wedding. Start, if you have multiple packages, start with the most expensive option and then sell down. In other words, let's say you have some land and you're the only person around and there's a boulder and you want to have some fun. It's a round boulder and you roll it down the hill. That's a whole lot easier than choosing the opposite. I want to roll the boulder up to the top of it. Roll it down. Make it easy for you and for them. By the way, I recommend for wedding photographers to do something that I did right at the end of when I stopped doing weddings. By the way, in 2013, I decided to stop doing weddings. I didn't stop for another 2 years because I tried something that I thought would reduce my weddings, or eliminate, really. That was raise my price. That didn't happen. The opposite happened. Not exactly the opposite, but I brought in double what I would normally have done based on the amount of effort that I put in. Let me get more specific with that. All right, so 2013. I've been teaching at that point since 1997. So is that 16 years? Yeah, something like that. And I really enjoy teaching. So I wanted to spend more time with it. And so I needed to cut something because I don't know time bending. By the way, if any of you watching teach a time bending class, I'd like to take your class. I'd love to have 30 hours in my day, but I don't. I only have 24. So therefore I had to cut something. And I decided to cut weddings because my average expenditure of time was 74 hours for a wedding. Now, the bride and groom, the people who see the photographer doing work will only see you for the 8 hours that you're working at the event. And, of course, they probably understand that you photographed the engagement portrait and the bridal portrait, so they'll add another hour or two for that. All right, so we're up to 10, 12 hours. That's what you're seen doing. The ratio for photographers is about a 10 to 20 to 1 ratio. For every hour you're seen, you generally are putting in 10. So for an 8-hour wedding, it would be about 74 hours. So a 1 to 10 ratio, approximately. It's more like a 1 to 9, but still. You're doing a lot more behind the scenes that people don't see you do than you are out where people do see you work. So I cut that out, but it wasn't that I didn't want to do weddings, and I kind of was emotionally attached to doing weddings. I enjoyed doing it. So therefore, I decided to raise my price and have just one package that included everything. Plus, I threw in a couple of extra really cool things. So I had one package. In 2013, I had one package. It was $12,000, which at that time was not the most expensive in my area. It was really close. It was one of the more expensive ones, but it wasn't the most expensive. And so I thought that this would cause my phone not to ring for weddings anymore, but it still did. Fewer. Granted, it was fewer times my phone rang. However, I photographed at least, if not fewer than, half of what I did before, and I still brought in the same amount of income. And I'll tell you why I think that happened. Because I gave them something I never gave them before, but I thought that I had. And that was power. See, I thought I gave them the power to choose because I had given them packages. But I was wrong. The power to choose comes in line item veto. So I had this list of all these cool things. And they could cross off anything they wanted, and whatever was left, that was their price. So they started off with $12,000. I'm a $12,000 wedding photographer. They could tell their friends that and be honest that they hired a $12,000 photographer. And they probably kept to themselves that they didn't pay that much for him. Or maybe they shared that too. I don't know. But they would take stuff off, cross it out. Every single thing on my price list that was included in that $12,000 had a price next to it. If they didn't want it, cross it off. Didn't want that? Cross that off. Add up what's left. Don't like that price? Cross something else off. Come up with their new price. They were in total control. Now, I did have a base because I did have to be there and they did have an interest in at least the the low res images. So there was a base level that they couldn't go below, and that was about 3,000. But no one got that. Everyone got probably around the $6,000, $7,000 range. That's where most people were at. By the way, that was double what I had been doing before. Yeah, because before it was a little over 3,000. Yeah, a huge amount of difference based on that choice. So I do recommend that to you guys if you're wedding photographers. And it may be a way to apply that for portrait work. I don't know, but it definitely works for weddings really well. All right. We went to a little bit of detail on that one, which is fine. But let's get back to the 4 parts of the sales process. We've already talked about 3. We had just one more to go. The first one was rapport building. The second one was qualify your prospect. Are they the right tool for what you're trying to accomplish? The third was identify their dominant buying motive. What is their motivation? Why are they doing this? Why are they doing this now? That's a question I often ask. Why are you choosing to do this family portrait now? And then the fourth is the close. Now, this is the shortest part of all of them, but the close is the goal of a close is to get them to do whatever it is you want them to do next. That's the close. So the thing that happens that progresses them towards the next step, whatever that is, it's different. Everybody's different. So whatever you've defined the next step to be, closing is causing that to occur. That actually happens. That's what the close is. That may mean, for some of you, that may mean that you've signed a contract and you've gotten the creation fee. It means different things to different people, so I'm not going to go into the specifics of what that means to you, but I am telling you should know what that is. What are we trying to accomplish here? What's the destination that we're driving towards? Do you have an opinion on that, Melissa?
Well, they say you have to ask for the sale, and that's always been because I've been doing sales a long time, and I was going to ask you a question, just what you've seen work, because I mean, and this is how long I've been doing sales. I mean, back in the day, I even did cold calling centers like for Sears Portrait Studios and Glamour
Oh,
Shop.
really? Yeah.
So you have to get people in to sign in to not only book the appointment, but almost pre-sell the package. And so that was cold calling. You just had a whole list of numbers and you went through a script. Nowadays, with the internet, because that was all pre-internet, they have a sales funnel page to almost help you get those kind of leads. And have you used a sales funnel lead page before?
Well, first, a sales funnel is simply your sales process that gets people who have an interest to be narrowed down to make sure that they qualify as a potential client for you, all the way down to the close where they are taking whatever step it is that you want them to take next. So no matter what, your sales process is a sales funnel. But the sales funnel that you're referring to is a digital one. It's online, and absolutely, this is something, a tool that should be used, because we don't want to waste anyone's time by dragging them along, by by saying we can accommodate everything. This is just dragging someone along. You maybe can accommodate pretty much anything, but should you? And the reason I say that, let's say this is a one-time event that we're photographing. Let's say it's a wedding. This is someone's one-time event. The things that you are best at, those things you should do. Those things you have the ability to do, leave those to those who are best at those things. There is no photographer who is the multi-tool at a Home Depot or Lowe's that can do everything that every single tool in that whole tool store can do. It doesn't exist. Yeah, I know you guys think you can, but you're wrong. There is someone who can do it better than you. And if you actually care, like you say you care, you'll allow the person who's best at it to do it. You will refer that business somewhere else. If you care. If you care more about money, if you're greedy, then you won't refer other people. You'll say, well, man, the business is hard to get. Why would I refer someone else? I need that income. I understand that you need it, but you're also going to get known for the person who does not ever help anyone else out, who's not referring others. When you start referring others, guess what happens? People start referring you because they want to return the favor, guys. So start it. Be that person. It has to start from you doing it, and then it'll come back. And you'll start getting just those who you want to work with most, which is a whole lot easier and more fun than working with just anyone who comes along. Because when you do that, you work with a lot of people who are difficult to work with. Not because they are difficult, but because it's not the thing you enjoy doing. It's not the thing that you're best at. It's the thing that you have the ability to accommodate because you've got this thing that has a button on it. And sure, I can press that button in front of anything, but that does not make me the best tool to do that. So you do what you feel best at, what brings you the most joy, and refer everything else to the person who is doing that, and that brings them the most joy. Using a funnel causes that to happen for you by just bringing in the people who are ideal for what you are trying to do. And your time will be filled with the things that bring you the most joy if you do it right. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, a little bit. It's just I know a lot of photographers who are approached by either by email solicitation or friend to friend. I can write you the page, to go ahead and get these emails to your photography studio. Um, is that, like I said, do you find that an investment worth doing for people again who maybe don't like doing so much of that sales process and would rather get that one-on-one on what we call warm leads in sales?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
and I would assume that you believe that as well because of how well you explained it. But yeah, absolutely. Narrow it down as much as possible so that those people coming in are potentially already sold.
Hmm.
They already know that what you have is what they want. That they're after that. That way, you're not investing your time with things that you don't have the ability to do or don't want to do. You have the ability to do pretty much any type of job because you can press the button. But you don't have the will to do every single type of job. So narrow it down to just the things that bring you the most joy, and you'll wind up with the things that bring you the most joy.
Yeah. Also, what do you suggest so that people don't get discouraged? I know when I started doing some sales stuff, especially when I went into broadcast television sales stuff, we the best thing one of the salespeople there or trainers had taught us that I probably still have in my head and it still carries me through a lot is like the 50 no's to get my yes when you're doing cold leads. And I'd be like, okay, I'm excited. I need to get this no so that I can get to my 50 no's so I can get to that yes. So um, I would count it kind of like as a kid where you're counting the sound of the thunder to the lightning strike. Um, and I found myself
Yeah.
doing that, and it really did help me get through that day of no, I'm not interested, or the hangups, or is there something, like I said, I think of a lot of people who are creative are very, especially, you're a little more sensitive, I want to say. And when you hear objection in your pricing or that's too, what helps, especially when you first started out, what helped you um, kind of get a little bit of that tougher skin to handle those objections?
Man, that's a good question, and it only comes from someone who's experienced it. So I like that question. Um, we we are sensitive to it. The nose or anything that is on that leaning towards negative side, somehow we creatives internalize this, and it's not a good feeling. It makes us uncomfortable. We lose our energy level reduces as a result, and this is not a good thing. But it is a step in the process of learning this. Like you said, growing that thicker skin. Um, when it comes to cold calling, that's a difficult type of sales that is even more difficult to the creative than it would be to others because of how we internalize that feeling, that no, it feels like it's a no to us rather than a no to whatever it is that they may be saying no to. They may be their no may be, oh yeah, I definitely want that, but I'm in the middle of something, so I don't have time. And all they said was, no, not interested, or whatever it is they said. They might be mean about it. So if you're doing that cold calling type where it's cold, meaning they don't know who you are, they don't have time. This is I think it's a good learning process, and I think it does have value, but I also believe that someone could skip past that by using some type of sales system, a funnel that bypasses the cold and only brings in the warm. So you wind up with no cold calls. Everyone you visit with already has an interest, and so we bypass that altogether. Now, for certain sales jobs, that's not even an option. But for artists, I do believe that it is an option. I believe that we can actually bypass the cold. Now, there are certain instances where we're going to have to go through those cold things anyway. For instance, one of the things I believe in building is alliances with businesses, sometimes individuals and organizations that target the same people you're targeting, but they are not competitors to you. And in talking with them the first time, it's cold because they aren't thinking about this already. Generally speaking, you do come across a handful that actually are, but that's not the norm. So you have to go through that process in many instances. So you having those experiences is making you better overall. I mean, totally. Making you a better salesperson, making you a better person, though, making you a better friend, making you a better person to come and ask questions of and to get advice from, because you've experienced these more difficult things, whereas someone who jumps past that never has that experience. Now, is that good or bad? It's just a different experience. It's neither good nor bad. It's just different experience, different set of criteria, different set of experiences that we have gone through to get to wherever it is that we're going. For the photographer, I do want to, for their website, I want them to do I believe that they should be doing some type of a funnel that breaks down the people who happen to wind up on the site to just the people who would actually want what it is that you're selling, the thing that brings you the most joy.
Do you find, I know now with a lot of these buy now, pay later programs like Klarna and Afterpay and stuff, um, has that in photography and for self portraits, or have you even implemented anything like that, a payment plan, but where you're paid up front? Because what I like about them, especially like from an art gallery thing, me and the artist are paid immediately. I can pay out the artist, as opposed to when we used to have payment plans in the gallery, and I'd have to make that awkward call every month and tell the person, "Hey, we're going to run your card," and I can't pay that artist until the payments are on the layaway program are paid off. Uh, have you implemented anything like those payment plans where you pay now or buy now, pay later?
That's a really good question. That, of course, wasn't an option when I began.
Yeah,
And so what we did was the second thing you mentioned,
yeah.
you self-finance, meaning you allow payments over a given period of time. Maybe you split it into 2 or 3 or 4 payments or a year. And that's how we dealt with that. And that's fine because it was a viable solution, but it is no longer the best solution. I'm not saying don't ever do it, guys. I'm saying you can do that if you feel that's the best option for you or your client, or maybe you're just trying to make a specific scenario work. But if you can take advantage of those things like Afterpay or some type of a loan of a type, but they're taking, the company you work with takes a certain percentage, but that certain percentage is really okay. You may feel it's a lot. I get it, but what is the amount of time and mental difficulty that you're going through to have to get that money later on when they don't, that automatic payment from their credit card doesn't come through, and you've got to reach out to them. First of all, you don't want to make that call. Second, you don't even have time to make that call. You didn't budget for that time. So it's taking time out of what you would have been doing something else with to do something you don't even want to do. So that is worth something, to not have those things that lower the amount of energy in your energy tank. I think that has value to put those systems in place. And so absolutely take advantage of those. And there's several different types. So I'm not going to, I'm not saying that there is one type that works best for a photographer or for a painter or for a sculptor. I don't know which one's going to be best for you. I am saying that they are the better way to go in many instances, with exception, but definitely by far the better way to go, because it makes it first more affordable. And those things are usually pretty quick. Afterpay is pretty much immediate. I, trying to think of what there are some that you have to apply for, but they generally are a higher amount, so it depends on what you're charging for your work. If you're selling something for 10,000, there is a process that person would have to go through, and some of them are very quick. Some of them, take till the next day. But relatively speaking, that's still pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, I started all this back in 2015 with PayPal credit at our
Good,
gallery.
perfect.
And it was, I mean, granted, it is a high interest for your buyer
It is.
after 6 months, but you get 6 months interest free to pay off something. And it's like basically like a credit or a loan. You have an interest rate, but if you pay it off in a certain amount of time, PayPal, and they do charge the seller a processing fee on there, and sometimes it's working those fees into your pricing as well, because I mean, just think if you had a price for an employee that was going to be managing your layaway system, if you didn't have the time to do it. So doing it just, percentage per sale might be, like you said, advantageous than having to get, especially if you're not in the position to have an employee that you can pay 40 hours a week, because it's pretty much what somebody's going to look for. They're not going to look for a 10 to 12 hour, gig really, when they're, especially along bookkeeping. They might want to do it, you know, they want to come to you for a full-time job. So not having to pay another staff person to do that and just pay per the sale makes it a little more advantageous when you're doing sales. And like I said, it's part of the objection I get is the price. And I'm able to kind of relate to a lot of art buyers that way, because I'm an art junkie that I can't say no. And those I've liked these programs because I like to buy big art. I mean, I was so excited the first time I was able to buy my big 80 by 60 inch piece here, and I was like, yeah. And it's an artist that has taken off too, so I'm really excited to own her piece. And at the time it was $1,800, and PayPal credit, and 6 months I had it paid off. I think I actually went to 7 months, but it was still worth it on my side as the buyer. And again, that awkwardness between me and the seller is not there.
Yeah.
As a buyer, I feel comfortable going back, so um, and like I said, being on the seller end, oh my God, I love not having to take layaways anymore. So
Yeah, I bet.
I love that so much, especially when they decide like somewhere in between. I'm guessing even for wedding photographers, they get deposits, and then you have a wedding canceled. And I know depending on how you define your terms, you might have, the deposit's non-refundable or something because you had to maybe buy equipment or something, or along the lines. But so not having to do all of that is just so much better. It's between them and the finance company, and I think that's a better third party to have in that bit of the sales when you don't like doing some of that awkward, collections or part of the sales.
Yeah, I
And
agree with all of that.
anything that you suggest that people do though to kind of build that confidence in sales other than I mean always experience, but are there things that you can think for people who are of the creative nature, again sensitive in this, to help them, like what other exercises have you found that have helped with selling?
I believe that when we redefine what sales is, that helps us as creatives, because we creatives do care about the people around us. We care about good causes. We want people to have a good quality of life. We want good things in front of us, and so we strive to make that happen. That doesn't mean that everything we do winds up being good, but that's our base. That's what we want. And when we understand that sales is exactly that, and we are already salespeople. We have just misunderstood what a salesperson is, and we've inserted a negative version of it, because everything good can have a negative version of it. And those slick salespeople fit that description. Those people at the department store that keep on bugging you because they get a commission, it kind of rubs you the wrong way. A lot of creatives, it rubs them the wrong way, and they're like, "No, I'm just browsing. Effectively get out of my. I don't want to see you anymore.
Hmm.
When I'm ready to buy, I'll come and get you." But we are salespeople, period. Whether you like it or not, you're already a salesperson, because you care about your client, you care about your artwork, you care about how others feel, and you are helping them to get what it is that they want. You want them to have joy from experiencing and owning your art.
Hmm.
You are already a salesperson.
Yeah.
So be who you are, and
Yeah.
just help others get what they want. Find out what it is that they want and help them get what they want. Sometimes it's you, sometimes it's your work, sometimes it's not your work. So I also think that we should have a good understanding of what others and other competitors are doing, so that we can refer when appropriate
Yep. And
and build
as
relationships with them.
Yep. And people buy from people they know. They say that a lot in sales, so
That's
like
right.
I think there's a TikTok that goes out saying, a buyer can easily become a friend. And it's rare that a friend or a family member becomes a buyer.
I saw that.
And
Did you post that? I saw that.
yeah, I think I've seen it on TikTok so
Okay.
many times, and I'm just like,
It's the truth.
that is the truth,
Hmm.
And again, it goes back to buying from people, an art, photography, emotional sales. So building bonds with people, and I think that really is something creative people like to still do. They really, there's still the hermit, artist that likes to be in their studio and not see anybody, but for the most part, I think creatives enjoy the story of talking with people. You see them at their booths, always getting the stories and talk and giving their stories, and that builds that repertoire, that relationship on there to build upon. So it doesn't feel like a hard, sale there. It's not like you feel like the insurance salesman, like you're going to die someday, so you really want to buy this. Um, so it's I think, like you're saying, artists, photographers, they're entrepreneurs, and being an entrepreneur, a lot of that is, like you're saying, relationship building. So you are, like you were saying, you are a salesperson already, and I think just kind of seeing it in that aspect of more of a social part of the sales for those people who don't like to do it, that may help. And then if you're somebody again who just hates everything, hates people, like we were saying, invest in that funnel page for you on the
It's
internet.
going to help.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, sales is an interesting thing, because I think a lot of us begin with a negative understanding of it,
Hmm.
where it isn't sales that's a negative. Sales is the ultimate and positive.
Hmm.
In fact, every one of us does it. Doesn't matter what job you have, you're in sales. You may think, oh, well, I'm a receptionist at a business. I'm not in sales. You are the top of the sales. You are the face of the sales. Because when someone comes in, who is it they see first? What impression is going to be made? It's going to be you.
Mm-hmm.
There's no one who has an opportunity to do sales more than you. The reception is the number one salesperson as far as what is sales all about, giving that impression. But a wise person who I worked with years ago, his name's Charles Parrish, said, if you're not working with your friends, who is it that you are working with? Because your friends, your clients become your friends if they weren't friends already. So therefore, why would anyone have a friend's discount? Because that would mean everybody. That would mean just lowering your price.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes no sense. And are you going to actually do business with your enemies, the people you don't like? Are they bringing you joy? No. You may think, well, they have money. I'm going to take their money if they're offering it. Why? You're an artist.
Yeah.
Your goal is to build and create joy and share that joy. And there's a cool side effect if you do it right. You get to collect some money in the bank. But that's not our motivation. Our motivation, generally speaking, for artists is joy, not greed. And so stop attracting those who have money as their highest interest. And by the way, if someone's making a decision based solely on money alone, money is their highest interest. You could put that in the greed category. Now, that's a little bit extreme to actually do that, but you know what I mean. We want to attract those with joy, and not everyone with joy has enough money in their pocket. But guess what? There's been several times. I'm picturing one in particular. It was a bride years ago. I don't know how long ago, 10, 15, 20 years maybe. And she had a total budget of $8,000. Now, $8,000 is a lot of money. I'm not saying it's not. But for a wedding, that's a lot less than the average wedding. It's a lot less. I think average in San Antonio, Texas, where I live, it's about 30,000 is average. I think it's 26,000, but somewhere in that range. So 8,000 is not a lot for what it is. The price for my wedding package that she purchased from me was $4,200. She did not ask for a discount. She did not ask for a payment plan. I offered it, and she did take advantage of it. But she wound up letting her DJ go and getting a friend to do the music. She moved her venue from a nice place to her apartment complex common area, whatever that is, just so that she could afford me, because she valued me, not because she had enough money for me, but because she valued the photography.
Oh, wow.
And so for those of you that think price is someone's major dominant buying motive, if it is, they may not be your client then. Not for artists. For other businesses it is. For commodities it is. But artists, that's not it. In fact, as far as pricing, I feel like we should price based on what causes us to reach our goals. Because if the income that we're bringing in doesn't cause us to reach your goals, then you're using the wrong tool. The tools you use should cause you to get to the result you want. If they aren't, make some changes. I'm not telling you you're doing it wrong. I'm just saying make some changes. Because you deserve to get the results you want. But you have to design it that way. And by the way, if you're not designing it, it'd be the equivalent of saying, no, officer, it's not my fault that I ran into that tree. I didn't even put my hands on the wheel. You're the driver. You're actually supposed to put your hands on the wheel. So therefore, take control over your pricing. Don't base it at what other photographers, what other artists charge. Your prices are based on what does it cost? What does it take to get the results that you want out of this life? Yeah, that's easier said than done. And we're going to make a lot of mistakes. But that should be the base mindset. How do you feel about that?
Hey, mistakes are stuff to learn from.
Yeah. We need them.
Yep.
That's what caused you to get better on sales and marketing. I'm sure you didn't do it right every single time. If you did, well, you're rare. But most of us make all kinds of mistakes, and a lot of those mistakes aren't perceived by others; they're perceived by us. And a lot of them come in the form of our heart racing, our mouth getting dry. I don't know. For me, it's my back will be wet with sweat. There's all kinds of physical
Anxieties.
reactions, anxieties because of that, and you of course want to avoid feeling that way, so therefore you become better at what you do, or you quit.
Yeah.
It's one of the two that happens.
Well, we're at 5:30. Do you have anything in closing?
Wow, we do. We're there. Well, yeah. In closing, for selling for people who don't like sales or uncomfortable with sales, I want you to remember this. If you don't remember anything else, sales is good because it means that you're helping your prospects get what it is they want, which is wonderful artwork, something that they can enjoy. You're conveying confidence. You're conveying enthusiasm. You're honestly believing that while you may not get the income if they don't work with you, that it is the prospect that is losing out on the wonderful images that you could have created for them, something that they would have loved and enjoyed for years to come. They're the ones missing out. Yeah, you're missing out on a few bucks, but they're the ones truly missing out. When you feel that way, things change. So get out there, spread the good news about what it is that you do. Be proud of your work and continue to be enthusiastic about helping others.
Right. And we'll be doing this again next month. And I think we're going to be talking about lenses. And the reason I chose it is in going into November, which this will fall on November 3rd, is that, right around Christmas, everybody starts to get that photography bug and they want to buy some of these new things. So, what can we learn from you about lenses next month? Which
Whew,
is probably a lot.
lenses. All right, save your money so that you can afford to buy these things. Good lenses do cost money. Cheap lenses are, well, cheap. Cheap lenses like $200 or less. The good lenses are going to be $800, $1,000, $2,000, and way up from there. But they are still just tools at a tool store that help you get what it is that you want to accomplish as your end result. So you have to define what it is you want as an end result so that you know which tool causes that to happen. And then you save your money and you invest into that. But we're going to be talking about what those different tools are, what they can do, what your considerations are, what they do that you don't even think about. Because there are things that certain lenses can do that it wasn't. Every tool in photography has an effect and a side effect. And the effect is something that we can get. I mean, we can, even if we don't, we can hear someone's story or we can watch a YouTube video or something and have a good understanding of the effect. But the side effect eludes a lot of us and we don't really see it, or we didn't quantify it. We're going to be talking about not only the effect, but the side effects of lenses. And some of this is going to be kind of fun. I've got some colorful examples that I think you'll get a kick out of.
Oh, great. Well, like I said, I know everybody, like I said, towards Christmas gets that urge to buy it. So hopefully this will help people make those educated buying decisions. Anything else coming up for Photo SA or anything on the Landers Photography School front?
Well, we have a Photoshop class that starts on Tuesday. It's 4 2-hour sessions, Tuesday, Thursday for 2 weeks in a row, and we have an intro to portrait photography that is a week from this Saturday. Begins on the week from this. Is that right? The 15th. I think that's a week from this Saturday. Yeah. So that's when that begins. And it is 5 2-hour sessions on Saturday afternoons, 1 to 3. And we have the annual San Antonio Photography Tournament, which is only for those of you who are local or who want to drive in or fly in for it. But it's going to be at the Dominion Country Club. And FinderWorks is one of the major sponsors of that. By the way, I need to talk to you guys a little bit more about that here soon. But FinderWorks has been one of the major sponsors for all 10 years. This is the 10th, and this is the 10th annual San Antonio Photography Tournament, and it is. There'll be 15 categories. You'll show up on 8 o'clock on Sunday morning. This is a week from this Sunday, so the 16th. You'll come in. You'll get that list. You can compete in as many of the 15 categories as you want. So all of them, one of them, it doesn't matter. You turn in your images during lunch. The judges do their thing, and after lunch, the prizes are awarded. The winners are announced. The certificates are given, and by 3 o'clock, it's over. It's done. It's not a popularity contest for to get your Facebook friends involved. It's an instant gratification photographer's challenge, which you can get at the website. You can get more information at the website you see at the bottom of your screen, or go to saphotoevents.com, saphotoevents.com, and get more information there as well. The tickets to go are just $39, so it's a cheap and fun day of getting out and having some fun. Now, it is all fun. It's not, the goal is not to find out who the best photographer is in San Antonio. It has nothing to do with that. This is a fun event.
Oh, great. Yeah, you're going to be busy too, but definitely come in and talk to us. That way we can kind of get on a little bit of talking for Photo Tips Monthly starting in 2023. It's almost the end of the year already. So
Yeah.
kind of get ready for the next year. Anything else, James, that you would like to include? I know we have the Canvas sale ending tonight. Is there anything else that you can think of to add? I think he's still on mute. Yeah, he might be on his mute. So I'm guessing we're good. Gonna hope that means we're good. So if you have any
He
questions,
froze. I think he's back.
oh, there he is.
All right, yeah, everything kind of frozen time for a moment there. So I'm trying to think. I did have something, but I don't recall what it was now. I guess the freeze.
Froze your brain.
Yeah, this little brain freeze. No, well, like you said, the Canvas sale is going to be ending in roughly 6 hours, so a little bit over 6 hours from now. So hurry up and get your orders in for any Canvas prints that you want. Next week, we don't have any sales that I'm aware of listed, although that can change. Right now, orders are taking a little bit longer, which is due in the fine art prints department, just because they've had an onslaught of fine art paper prints. And again, we are working on improving the turnaround time on those. There is I remember what it is. Right now, there's Shopify. If you do have a Shopify store, Shopify is implementing some major changes for fulfillment apps, and we are going through the process of having the app approved. They're now requiring this whole approval process. We're just about finished with that, but right now there are some spotty issues with getting orders marked as filled that come in through the Shopify app. We hope to have any issues with that resolved by the end of the day tomorrow. Really, it's just a matter of how quick do they respond, and I know it's creating all kinds of chaos and havoc with people on Shopify stores, not necessarily with our app, but just with apps in general, because this is a huge update with Shopify that's breaking hundreds of apps right now.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we've been staying on top of it, so it's not as bad with us. But I do know with a lot of other fulfillment companies that they've been caught kind of with like a deer in the headlights. So you mean not even aware that this huge update has is coming into play this month. So, but anyway, yeah, we should have that all that settled. I'm hoping by the end of the day tomorrow.
Okay, well, that's great. Like I said, I know a lot of people, a lot of our users do use Shopify. So
Yeah.
if you're having those issues, it's probably part of it. There's,
Yeah, I think that I've seen some bugs with the updates that or I've heard of some bugs, I should say, read about
Mhm.
bugs. So
Well, just that there's so many people having to scramble to kind of meet Shopify's
I
app approval process.
yeah, and it's as we get by the end of this month, everything's gonna be finalized. So I think
Yeah.
so, it's going to be really difficult for many of these app providers at the end of the month, because then the reviewers are going to just be. I mean, they have to now. The new policy is that every app has to go through a review process and be listed on the App Store if it's going to be an app that's distributed or used by a broad range of people. And so that review process is somewhat tedious, and it's not difficult per se. It's just it's not it's long. It's long and
Yeah.
tedious. So and but then again, there is some breaking changes in their API, which nullifies a lot of things. We discovered the whole fulfillment process, how we have to mark items as fulfilled, since we've been forced to make these updates to for the App Store or their App Store. The method that we use to send fulfillment notifications have been deprecated, which means that they're discontinuing that format. We have to modify and change that format.
Well, Jim, thank you as always for taking your time out and doing this and helping our customers get better, especially right now at selling today, because that's going to be a big skill to have in the next 3 months right now to hopefully close out your year nicely. And like I said, you can watch these on the replay on our YouTube channel. And all of the past photo tips monthlies are there too. And if you have any questions, you can either email me at melissa@finerworks.com. Our email is now working. And I will pass those on to Jim. And we'll see everybody next month.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
All
guys.
right.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.